Hello Defiers! If you've seen our update teaser and our roadmap, then you know our next update is called Sisters of the Deep, and it's slated to bring new legendary weapons, improvements to the Dark Forest, a shrine overhaul, and boss fights. Today we're here to look at those environments being created for the boss fights, specifically the first raid room and its exterior and the work that's gone into it so far. So let's get into that conversation from concepting to polish with our art director and environment artist.
Pre-production usually starts with design. After many discussions, long discussions, everybody kind of pushing to get what their idea is of a good raid, loot, environments, boss design. We usually have a pretty comprehensive doc, and from that doc is usually where we start pulling out demands from other departments.
Pre-production, how it looks for me when I'm working on stuff is trying to understand, get an idea of the gameplay that we want to achieve. On this specific room, the art director, Dwight, he handed me concept art and like a top-down sketch layout.
You want something epic, you want something dangerous. Okay, well let's draw something up pretty quickly so we can agree on the visuals at least. So room 1 was supposed to be a training area for the three sisters that you fight up against. It's supposed to be this fighting ground where there's not much furniture here, there's not much of additional rooms for you to go into and explore. This is quite literally inspired by like a coliseum. Some of that room is taken up by some props that are needed to complete the mechanic. Seats surrounding you. There's a bunch of banners everywhere, and then also some of the lore that we have for the entire raid zone and how all three of those rooms work together. That concept image, it usually gives you a few things. It gives you scale, the full list of, I guess, props that you would have to make, color grading, somewhat of a rough idea of what the lighting would look like. Those concepts is usually what we will take and start the white boxing phase. So we are going to go into the engine. We're going to create a test level, and then we'll set up a little scene there and get it as close as we can to the concept.
We do our best to kind of pick a camera angle where it matches very much with the concept, but there's a lot of other parts that you're talking about, and you really just don't get a feel for it until you place the big shapes and you start jumping around in 3D.
We're using the tools that are within the engine to build out this scene.
By using simple shapes, you can iterate very quickly. You're not putting a lot of time into exactly how it's placed, and you can get a quick overall feel.
And usually at that phase, you're really getting a firsthand and accurate experience of how big is everything and is everything actually working well. We can start to point out areas that we would like to set dress a little bit more, and some areas that we want to do world building and add some additional things that originally just wasn't in the concept.
So there's kind of like a big opening on one side of the room. And it's funny because even with concept art, the art director, Dwight, he saw it one way and I interpreted it a different way. So like my first take on it, it kind of looked like the concept, but then Dwight explained, well, actually, it's a big opening kind of outlooking onto like a mountain area. So then we were both kind of on the same page. The proportions and the scales, we played with those a decent amount back and forth to try to make that big opening vista look more cinematic.
And usually at this time, we are also experimenting with lighting. We're adjusting time of day, we're adjusting sun angle, inclination.
We're able to very cinematically direct a static light source, and this allows us to get the dramatic lighting that we want. So when you have big rays of light coming down through a cave, you need very specific angles to achieve that.
And then when we get into the second area, we want the lighting to be completely different. You're like fighting between these two aspects of an enclosed space and then this exposed open space. So there's a lot of balancing that we have to do. There's a lot of exposure control adjustments that we have to do.
We're using some new techniques and some new kind of VFX assets to achieve the cinematic atmosphere that we're putting in these areas. So we really have had an opportunity to fine-tune the knobs and make it look exactly the way we want. So when all that's feeling pretty good, that's when we can go and start making it look more like a game, look more beautiful, because at that point, the risk of having to redo large sections is much smaller.
That's when we will start tackling some of the world assets and some of the structures at the same time, and we will do it in order of priority.
We love to work from big to small. After white box, we're not going in there and putting in little tiny pebbles. We're starting by making art assets for the biggest, largest shapes.
So in that first zone is going to be all the cliffs that cover the entire backside. Where we start building out some of these structure kits, we're going to focus on the main arena first and make sure the visuals of that looks good. And then we can start fleshing out some of the props that you would find on the path along the way that takes you to the arena. Then we would start working on some of these hidden areas. That goes on for as long as it takes. So when we're making that temple, we want the footprint to be 90 meters. That becomes quite a bit of a process because we have to essentially build it out like you're building, where you're actually making a building, right? We're organizing columns and walls, the flooring, the stairwells, but then now we have to make sure that we build out the interior. Are there balconies? Any type of ornate patterns on the floor, propping? Are we gonna add any banners in here? Roofing? The process of making big structures like that, it's time consuming. It's time consuming. All of these things have to essentially be built out prior, either in pieces, and then we assemble them into the engine, or we'll do it in a 3D modeling program.
So we use a variety of kind of techniques. Some of the rocks are built purely from scratch in Houdini. Some of the rocks are taken from the Megascans library, and we like kit bash them together. So like with the rubble piles, instead of like hand building those rubble piles, I used like physics simulations to drop a bunch of little rock pieces, and that results in a natural looking rubble pile. And it's actually much quicker to iterate this way, instead of hand placing a bunch of little pieces. Changes that come kind of later or come after we say, hey, this looks beautiful, we're happy with it visually, then we have play testing. And that's where we might start seeing problems that we did not predict. A lot of times on the world side, that can be collision. So already some early play testing revealed that some of these rubble piles, people were able to cheese the enemies by jumping behind kind of these large boulders. And
You'll play tests. We have these set abilities for the boss. In practice of fights with that boss, you realize you keep it running into this wall. You start putting enemies in that arena, and then all of a sudden the enemies, they're a bit too small and they're just not really working very well. We get feedback like that, we have to adjust. We have to either rebuild part of the structure, and if moving some of those things affects design, then now it's back and forth between art and design, right? And we find some middle ground. That's when you'll start to see additional VFX, some of the models get refined a bit more. So you'll see a fifth pass on something, a sixth pass on something, and that's usually your polish phase right there.
I love discovering, finding new environments when I play games. It's something new to experience. It's a new opportunity for stories to be told, and it expands kind of your imagination on this growing world and the new things you could find.
This is a raid around Athena, Medusa, her sisters. It's important because the primary theme of our game is, based on Greek mythology. It's important to use this opportunity to add things like that into the game to really solidify this is an ancient Greek game that is pulling from the Greek lore. And that will only get expanded even more.
We're super excited for you to experience the full reveal of this environment and the rest of the raid for yourself with the Sisters of the Deep update. While working on Sisters of the Deep, we did decide that we think it's important this first major update brings improvements to the new player experience and adds additional open world activities. That being said, this update is taking longer than we initially scoped because we're working on various features outside of that boss fight legendary weapon experience we were packaging as Sisters of the Deep. So we're looking more towards a June release at this time. We'll make sure to give you a week in advance notice of when that update is coming, so you won't miss it. Thank you so much for supporting us so far in our early access development and for having patience with our first major update. We really want to get it right because we want it to set the standard for all of our future updates and how we're treating early access. Make sure to join our Discord where you can ask questions about the game, questions about development. or post your Zeus memes. We're super excited to keep working on this and to get it to you as quickly as we can. Talk again very soon.